You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Six minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Clement Manyathela show on this 9th day of April. It's great to be in your company this morning. I hope you're good this morning. Hello. If you are watching us on YouTube, on the 702 YouTube account, how are you doing? What's popping up there? 011-883-0702. That's the number to dial. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. That's how we start the 702 open line this hour. You can call us, send us a WhatsApp voice note to weigh in on any of the issues we're discussing this morning. Also, you can send comments there on YouTube as well. If you're watching there, I will read them. This trade war, my friends, is escalating, isn't it? It's a tit for tat. Did you see that President Donald Trump is set to impose that astounding 104% of levies across all Chinese imports today? That's 104%. And this is a stock market's worst start to a presidential term in modern history. Look at how the markets have reacted over the last couple of weeks, more so towards the end of last week. Already, the tariffs on China are increasing by 34% today as part of President Trump's reciprocal tariffs package. Now, President Trump has tacked on another 50% because Beijing didn't back off on its promise to impose a 34% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods by yesterday. If you remember, actually, I was looking at the figures yesterday. China was actually America's second largest source of imports last year, shipping a total of $439 or so billion worth of goods to the US, and the US exported $144 billion worth of goods to China. So these tariffs are going to hurt, and they're going to hurt so much. Even the domestic industries. I mean, how do you even avoid layoffs at this stage? And I wonder if there's actually an understanding of the dire consequences of this trade war. I mean, and we often get told, because Trump has been trying to justify it, right? Tariffs, how we know. My basic understanding of tariffs is, yes, they generate revenue. They can shield local industries from foreign competition. Well, lately we've come to learn that they're actually used for diplomacy. But at some point, these tariffs were a major source of income even for a country like the US. But I wonder now, who gains more between Beijing and Washington during this entire trade war? And I'm interested in your thoughts on that. Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note. Who do you think is going to be hurt the most, or who gains between China and the US? China thinks that it could come up on top when Beijing has been watching the US really dismantle this international economic system, which it is a system, by the way, that the US played a critical role in creating. But this is a global economic realignment, and China is beginning to position itself because it's got its own vision for the world. It's got a vision for the world that is different to the vision that the US has been pushing for as a major leading superpower. And for China to implement that vision while the US remains this major leading superpower, that's going to be difficult. I mean, they've got the technological advancements, they have policy that can protect its economy. They've been meeting, Xi Jinping has been meeting with his counterparts in Japan, in South Korea, the European Union, because they think that they need to work together against this, what they call this unilateral bullying from the US. And I wonder what kind of vision China has. And is this an opportunity for China to occupy that space? I mean, all economic signs are flashing red. And Trump says, don't worry, it's all going to come down. And, you know, I had moments where I thought, sometimes you need a president like that who's going to be brave enough to take decisions and plays the long game. But sometimes a president can take the risk that affects so many people that by the time that there is some benefit in the long game, there's so much damage that's already been done. But sometimes I look at Trump and I really admire his bravery. I really do. I mean, I don't agree with 99% of the things he stands for. But sometimes I think, for a man who leads a world economic superpower like that to just take these decisions and like, I don't care how the markets react. I mean, Elon Musk, some of you call him the co-president of the US. Elon Musk has lost 135 billion rand of his own wealth since the beginning of the year. That's equivalent to almost half of our country's GDP. And in fact, more than the budget presented by the National Treasury last month. You look at someone like the Business Day is reporting also about some of the world's 10 richest people. They have lost a combined 370 billion rand since the start of the year. With, of course, Elon Musk accounting for nearly half of that. You have other people that have benefited. I think Warren Buffett has added $11.5 billion to his wealth, shielded by his diversified portfolio. E-commerce and tech, the businessmen Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg have lost $42.6 billion and $24.5 billion respectively. These are people that were there at Trump's inauguration, hey? So at some point you've got to wonder, what is the end goal? And does the end, what again, let's say, justify the means? Let me know your thoughts on 011-883-0702.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good morning, Clement. When it comes to Donald Trump's trade war, I love Trump. You know, Trump just disturbs the world order, creates chaos. This is like, for me, I love his presidency. The USA chose him as their president. This is exactly what they wanted. So I don't know why the world is shocked. I mean, he said it in his campaign that he's going to come down hard on all the countries that he feels that have been taking advantage of the USA. So I'm just observing. We're here for the ride. Eddie from Centurion.
Good morning. I trust you well. You know, Trump doesn't want to adhere to any international relations laws or trade laws. So he must be left alone. Countries must trade with each other and leave America alone. Let's see what would Trump do next. Let's see. Really.
I'm scared of what's coming next. Guys, it's only been, 3-4 months of his presidency, his second term, and already this is what we see. Can you imagine what's going to be happening in the next 2 years? Lehlogonolo, you calling from Centurion. You've always been a Trump supporter. Good morning.
Good morning, Marimecha.
Some support
morning
of
to
Trump.
you, brother. I do. I think, I believe that he loves his people, but I think he's going about it the wrong way, Marimecha. I think the only thing, we all know China, the dominance of China in our countries, and we all know that if we can start building up industries and trying to replace some of the things that China gives to us, that we will succeed as a country. I think Trump is going about this thing the wrong way. What he needs to do is this. he needs to start building up industries. I mean, America is capable of that. America is a big market. Everybody needs America. It's a big market. China needs America. We need America. Everybody needs America. America needs China. It needs us for minerals. It's a big market. It's a market that we cannot ignore. You understand? So we cannot just ignore it and say, we want trade with America. He's got a big market for everything. So he's going about it the wrong way, I think. What he needs to do, also what we need to do, we need to start building up industries that are going to replace some of these things. We need to identify things that are exported or that we get from China more, or that you understand. The same thing, that same thing. All the countries need to do that, and then after that, let's say you have opened up an industry for, let's say, for toys, kids' toys. Then you put tariffs. Then you put impossible tariffs so that people stop buying China manufactured toys. They start buying your manufactured toys. That's when you can put tariffs. Not when no one, when none of your people are building up, are producing those things. Then you're killing the industry. You're killing the small shops. All those shops that are selling, the Walmart and all of them, you're killing that industry. And then now, those people, your people that you're protecting, they're going to start paying. If they were paying $10 a toy, now they're paying $20 a toy.
But the thing is, Onolo, even when you're trying to shield those domestic industries, I'm not an economist, but my basic understanding of economics is that there's a supply and demand. So yes, you may put these tariffs, and then maybe whatever you get from China starts being more expensive to the consumers in the US market, because of course these Chinese companies have to find the gap, right, for all these tariffs that are increasing, and they're always going to push that over to the consumer. So the minute those vehicles or toys, to use your analogy, from China get too expensive, and then the local industries start selling them, there's demand. The law of supply and demand is that the prices are eventually going to increase, even for the consumers who are purchasing those products from the domestic markets. No?
But what I'm saying, Madimeja, is that when you do that, remember what China is doing. China is cushioning their industries. For an example, if there's a certain industry that is struggling, China will put money. The government will go put money into that to kind of make sure that those people start making money. So when you do that as a country yourself, if supply and demand start being the factor there, you'd have to somehow make sure that your people don't get to spend more producing these things, so that they can put their prices under whoever is bringing in the thing. Then if the demand starts getting higher, focus on building more. That's more jobs that you're building. You understand? That's more jobs that you're building. Focus on building more. America is big. America's got the technology. It's not like us. We do have the technology, but we didn't go that fast. We still need about 30 years to do this. America can do this in 2 to 5 years. You understand?
Yeah. Look. Yeah, I hear you, little Onolo, and as you said, you can't really ignore the American. That's a huge market, and yes, we need to start thinking about new markets to which we can export. Let's find new markets for our products or whatever we produce. But you can't just also ignore the American market. That's why big corporation, I'm sure now they're making decisions about whether or not do we go and move our productions to America to avoid these tariffs. But research has been done. Even during Trump's first administration, there was research that was done. But these tariffs that he spoke of, they ended up affecting Americans more. So how is it going to work this time around? Because he's unhinged. Semi, you're calling from Centurion. What are your thoughts?
Good morning, Clement. Clement, I find it interesting that the South Africans were the same people who always complain about South African companies employing foreigners. Were complaining about our textile industry being destroyed by Chinese imports. But some people, South Africans, are going to criticize Trump on what he's doing. Because if you look at what he's done, this guy, you look at American companies, tech companies from America, in USA, they've outsourced jobs to China in India. You look at companies like Microsoft, Apple, can go on and on, Chevrolet. They took American companies and exported these jobs, so that because in those countries, people are being paid less. You look at China, for example, Apple and Xbox, Microsoft Xbox, on and on. They're manufactured in China, in Shenzhen, by a company called Foxconn. So he's imposing these tariffs. So these companies will bring those jobs back to USA for the American people, those millions of jobs. And this is what he's been saying, this guy, for more than 30 years. If you look at these interviews that he's done with Oprah Winfrey. And that's just about it. And sure, people are going to suffer in the long run. He said about 2 years, there's going to be some form of suffering. But in the long run, they will benefit from it. And this is just...
What's his plan, though, Semi, because if he admits that in the next 3 or 4 years, in the short term, there is going to be suffering. I mean, trillions of dollars are wiped off. The markets have reacted. It's just red throughout. And he can see that it's not looking good for the American people. So what support then does he even provide for them? Because I've not heard him even announce some packages to protect. He just goes, well, it's going to be difficult for about 3-4 years, but just take it because after that, we're going to boom again.
For the consumer, yes. Because when those things come to be manufactured in USA, there's going to be there's going to be expensive because when they're manufactured in China and other countries, they become cheap. But when they're manufactured in USA, they become expensive. You look at, for example, Apple. When he was president in the first term, he spoke to Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, that they must start manufacturing those Apple computers in USA.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They make Macintosh right now, and they make the MacBook. They're manufactured in
They moved their production there, yeah.
Yes, they were expensive when it all started. But right now, everything is going right fine. My niece stays in Texas. Those things were expensive in 2020, 2021 when they started being manufactured in USA. But right now, MacBook has become far more cheaper for her. So he's doing a good thing.
So Americans basically just take the pinch for the next 3 or so years, but just know it's going to be fine. Just be patient.
Clement, nothing will ever be handed to you in a silver platter. Even when our parents were fighting against apartheid, they were tortured, they were done all sorts of things. But in the long run, you will see the benefits, Clement. Nothing comes on a silver platter, even in your career. When you started as a journalist, nothing was ever easy.
Okay.
Nothing was ever easy. So in the long run, American people will benefit.
Do you not think, Semi, just the last one quickly, do you not think that he's also a bit emotional in these, because he also brings in retaliatory tariffs. So he says, here's a 34% on you, China, and then China says, okay, we're going to retaliate, and says, if you dare retaliate, I'm adding another 50. I mean, where is it going to get to now? Because we're sitting on, 104% now in tariffs on all Chinese goods. Who knows where it's going to end?
Yeah, sure, he is emotional. And some people might think he's irrational and he's just acting on like a wild animal. But in the long run, American people will see that actually this guy has saved that he's brought a lot of jobs back home. Why is it that American companies are manufacturing the stuff in India, in China, in Canada, when Americans can do this job?
Okay, Semi in Centurion, thank you. Great contribution there. I really appreciate your call. Let's go to, is it Kobe in Edenvale? Kobe, what do you think?
Yeah, Clem, I support what the other guys have been saying. This man, we may not like the man, but what he's doing is saving his own economy and he's saving his own country. And absolutely, as you increase tariffs, things are going to get more expensive for importation, and then it's going to be manufactured locally. Yeah. And that's exactly what the whole idea is. Clement, I'm an old man. Let me tell you, my mother was a shop steward in the textile industry. The textile industry, after China started to export all their textiles to South Africa, our market is decimated. Ask the unions. My son did a master's degree on that, on the effect of cheap imports into this country. We speak about unemployment in our country. Go and check what's the reason for the unemployment. It's when cheap imports like China comes in, everything is manufactured in China in this country, is brought into this country. I looked for a flag the other day, manufactured in China. I mean, are we
Which
saying
flag?
that we cannot manufacture a flag? Yeah, South African flag. Okay, manufactured in China. And Clem, the long and the short of it is this here. We have opened our economy for imports and let's use China as an example. And listen, I'm a businessman my own self. There is paint. I'm in the paint industry. Paint is imported from China. We got manufacturing plants here in South Africa. Our government should levy heavy taxes on paint so that to protect our local economy. And this is exactly what Trump is doing. So I'm a businessman myself. I agree 100%. I don't like the man, but I tell you what, I like the policies of protecting your own. And this, at the end of the day, is what it is. Go and ask the union in the textile industry what happened to our textile industry. It doesn't exist anymore. You know why? You can go and buy a suit for 500 rand, landed from China here in South Africa. Okay, let's ask the question, what happens then? Yes, prices are going to go up, absolutely. But when prices go up, you will buy local. I mean, it's as simple as that.
And then supply and demand. I mean, the more there's demand, the local industries themselves are going to increase their prices. So then they're expensive again for the locals.
I agree with you on that, but the market always corrects itself, Clement. The market will always correct itself. Yes, the market, we're seeing red on the markets this last couple of weeks. What happened over the last 2 days? The market in America corrected. The Dow Jones actually went up. So the markets will correct. See, in business, Clem, it's about knowing what it's about. You can have the worst policies, but when the market knows about their policies, they will correct. It will correct. And that's how the markets work.
Kobe, thank you for your wonderful contribution. Kobe in Edenvale. Ria, you're in Honeydew. What do you think?
Yes, hi. Look, I don't think Trump is brave or clever or like, I think people like his macho appeal, and that's what appeals to them. I think the man, as his daughter, who's a psychologist, said, is a sociopath, he's a narcissist, and he's power hungry. And I think he is a Russian asset. People are saying that he's working with Putin. I think that he is that, and I think that's why he wants to destroy Western hegemony.
What's in it for him, Doria? If we were to believe that, what's in it for him to destroy America as a superpower or Western hegemony, to use your word?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's so indebted or so in cahoots with Russia that maybe together they're planning to, I don't know, to rule the world. But a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, the way he's treated Canada. And people are also reacting against him, and they're just shutting off their markets. Like Canada just said, we don't need you, we're going to survive. I don't know. I'm not at all impressed with him. And I know a lot of men like him because they think he's so macho and he's so tough. And I remember even with Kamala, I think a lot of men, even black men in America, they didn't want this black woman, being their president, so they went for Trump.
Yeah, American people there's still a bit of conservativeness in America. You are bringing a female to run for president? On top of that, she's black? Like, that's a wild thing for most Americans. So I do remember when we were even looking at the polls and what they were saying at the time. It wasn't just because, Kamala, we have no confidence in her. They had race and, of course, dynamics around gender in the U.S. Ria, thank you so much for your thoughts. That takes us to 9:31. All right, keep your calls and your WhatsApps coming. 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Someone asked actually on Twitter, where did Trump get this idea to re-engineer the world economy like this? And I actually watched a comment by Rachel Maddow. Maybe I'll play it for you. She's an anchor on MSNBC, where she takes us through where Trump even got his economic advisors who actually advised him on going about this trade war. Maybe I'll play that clip. I'll try find it for you so I can play it.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
It's 22 minutes before 10 o'clock. I want to go straight to your calls on 011-883-0702. We are taking your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. All economic signs are flashing red. China, from today, if you have seen yesterday, well, a couple of days ago, Donald Trump announced that he's set to impose an astounding 104% in levies across all Chinese imports today. That's 104%. Already China was seeing tariffs increase by 34% as of today as part of President Trump's reciprocal tariffs package. China fired back and said, well, we're going to bring in some retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. They did that by yesterday, and Trump has now added another 50% because Beijing didn't back off from its promise to impose those 34% retaliatory tariffs. And I've been asking, who stands to win here? Who stands to lose even more between Washington, D.C. and Beijing? And this realignment, because China has its own vision of the international economic system. Is this an opportunity for China to come through here? Because I don't think they'll be able to, because they're watching the U.S. president basically dismantle this system. And the U.S. has played a critical role after World War II in creating the system. But it's a global economic realignment, and China has its own vision. I wonder where this trade war is going to lead us. Let's go to some calls. I'll get to your WhatsApps as well. Let's start with you, Lehlogonolo in Pretoria. What are your thoughts? Good morning. Hi,
Bon, I'm all about our own benefit as African continent to say that, both China and US are all looking at they're taking what I call inward looking in terms of their economics to survive, this realignment of geopolitics, particularly from the president of US point of view, that he's seeing his people being, jobs slipping over into emerging economies like China and India. And mind you, India is not making the same noise as China is making, but it also has its tariffs. Now, the question is, why would China make so much noise? You know why?
Yeah.
Because China is actually manipulating most of the countries, especially in Africa, because if you read our economics back in the 1990s, China actually brought our steel industry down. Right now, I'm reading the president's speech from Forum on Africa, China-Africa Cooperation last year, wherein he himself considered that our bilateral with China is actually deficit in favor of China. When are we going to look the man in the mirror and say, guys, perhaps let's take advantage of this change in geopolitics and not be confrontational, but look at how can we benefit in terms of this crisis. Use the crisis to rebuild ourselves, particularly the intra-Africa trade, which we could actually, rebuild our economy based on the current geopolitics, uncertainty. Markets are going to react the way they do because markets are about certainty. If you bring uncertainty, they're going to panic. Many fund managers are simply panicking, but they will ultimately see the value in what Trump is trying to rebuild, because his is based on what we call tough politics. But for me, I'm just interested in us taking this moment as a continent to say, guys, it's about time that we build ourselves. Because right now, we know China is currently having interest in every other African country, but in exchange of raw materials. When are we going to have our economy in our hands?
How do you think we should do that, Lehlogonolo? Especially now, do you think we should also take Trump's approach with these universal tariffs, or are there specific countries you think we need to target?
No, we actually take this moment to encourage China to relook how it runs its geopolitics, to say, listen, let's help, like they promised last year, to say they will help South Africa to develop its manufacturing by increasing many companies that are Chinese to come and localize their manufacturing in South Africa. We need to elevate that message even further to say, guys, we don't want to shift goalposts. Where is those investments? Please help us to build our manufacturing. In as much as we see that you're fighting America, we are on your side, but we have, we are on a panic mode as a continent.
Yeah. Lehlagonolo in Pretoria, thank you for your thoughts. Rian, you are in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Clement. Well on you. Clement, there's a million moving parts. I honestly don't have all of the answers. This is once in a lifetime situation. I just ask myself the question, what would be worse? A little bit of short-term pain on the markets and America trying to bring down their debt in whichever way they see fit on the one side, or would it be worse if America defaults on their debt on the other side? Now, if America defaults on their debt, that will be contagion across the planet instantaneously. And I think that's, for me, in my own personal opinion, I'm looking at which is the worst of the two here. Because if America does default on their debt, if they cannot make payments on their bonds and they cannot refinance it, that will create an instantaneous problem. I mean, Japan immediately will tank. Immediately.
Yeah.
Massive issue there.
I do remember even reading on Reuters that I think it was, last month, that the analysts were projecting that the US could actually face that default risk as soon as July.
Exactly. So that default is actually much worse than a few moves on the market here at the moment, which is, people speculating, et cetera, And just another point that I would like to make, this lower oil price actually helps, the reduction of inflation. And I'm not an expert, but, it also might sort out, the issue with the war in Russia in the terms of that the oil price is down. Russians need a higher oil price as well. But I don't know what's going on there, but I'm just saying the reduction in the oil price does help a bit of the inflation pressures that you might find short term. Because the reduction in the oil price obviously brings down goods, chemicals, ethylenes, propylenes, fuels, all of those kind of things. So, for me, it's which one is the worst? If America defaults, now we've got a whole new set of problems.
Yeah.
And I think for Donald Trump, it's not very difficult. When your household is in debt, you have to make decisions. It's not very difficult. Donald looks at it, says, with $36.5 trillion in debt, something needs to happen. We cannot continue down this path. So I think his hand is forced to some degree. So I think those are the questions that one needs to answer and ask and answer. And then I did speak to the lady. She said it was handled. When prices go up locally because you don't have imports, your prices might go up locally in the America or in the USA because of the cheaper imports don't come in. But when the prices go up and you are not importing, that creates a position for other companies to also open up factories. So instead of having 2 factories in America producing a product, you will now have 5 or 6 or 7, and they will start competing with each other.
Yeah, and that's what Donald Trump said, even on Liberation Day, is that we're bringing manufacturing back to America. We want companies to really start coming up and bring about jobs for the American people. Stephen, you are in Alberton. Good morning.
How are you?
Sure. Go ahead.
Very quickly, I'm not an economist by any stroke of imagination, but I was thinking around this issue, right? The way I see it, look, Donald Trump is forced, and he needs to make repayments. July is coming, etc., and all other good things that your previous speakers have said. However, there is a situation where there is an issue of the how. There are pressing issues, yes, but you can communicate better and not too aggressive and too pious in your approach. You need world trading partners. There isn't anything like you do. Look, there is a distribution base. Let us assume, for argument's sake, that Trump and America manufactures their own products. However, they also need a broader scale for economies of scale to distribute their products. And if the world, look, India's got about 1.2 billion people. The continent of Africa has got about 1.3 billion, and America's got about 340 million people. Before you know it, you are saturated and you have stockpiles of your things that you can't distribute. That is why you need trading partners, because we will start having replicas of what you are producing in your country manufactured somewhere else. I mean, China now replicates Rolls-Royce. You know, they replicate all the other cars. You know what I'm saying? You still need a distribution base longer term where you need your products to circulate. That is why it was inevitable for countries to have something like a cohesion of trading partners needing each other to distribute their products.
And it's happened for centuries and centuries, Stephen. Yeah, Stevens, thank you. A fair point you're raising there. Dawn in the Cape Winelands. Good morning.
Hello, Clement.
Sure.
I think what we're seeing now is a gross mischaracterization of how world trade works. I think the WTA and like free trade and all that stuff it's created out of serious academic thought. You know, game theory is based around the concept that it's a net positive if we all cooperate. So that means you lose the ability to manufacture because you're a consumption economy like America. You don't get to complain later on down the line that we can't make things if you mischaracterize having capital as having skill. So it's not enough to build factories. If they then want to onshore all these other products, they have to reskill and retool those factories that they already have. They have to build a workforce around that. They have to make it affordable to build that workforce and still be able to sell those products to us. So I think the mischaracterization that China is somehow taking advantage of America by creating a production economy as opposed to a consumption economy, which China still is, right? China still has a lot of people, a lot more people than the 300 or so million people that are in America. So they still have an active market. So in terms of just what this means globally, I think it's a capital failure, and I think that the June deadline that's coming up has a major role to play in how they're treating the rest of the world. Because if the dollar is the base standard, the base currency of our trade, they know that if they put the world into turmoil, at some point we're going to capitulate. At some level, we're not even close to having the rand as something that can be used in global trade, or having the yuan or something like that. Those are all still theoretical ideas of if and when. It's not we can move next week using rubles or using this
or some BRICS currency.
Yeah, no, the dollar is still so deeply ingrained in how we function that even if America is doing something terribly, we here then claim that because the DA is coming out of the government, the rand is doing bad.
Yeah.
Nothing has functionally changed in the situation of South Africa. There hasn't been suddenly a jump in unemployment. There hasn't suddenly a drop in productivity. It's just that the dollar is doing so badly now, it appears that we're doing badly. And in that case, when they start talking about we're going to take all these jobs in, we're going to take that. But do you know how international an iPhone is? Not even the end product, the iPhone. Just like the screen, just like the individual components of the individual components that make up an iPhone, they have become so international that onshoring those jobs and onshoring even the supply chains around making those products has become so impossible now. And I agree with people that we need to be more conscious about how we handle trade and intra-Africa trade and all that. But we need also to realize that these are national efforts. Those are nationally built. Those are built around national policy that is supported by a very, very strong-minded government. In order for us to build production capacity, for us to build out the supply chains, for us to build out all those things within Africa, it needs a very well-coordinated effort, a very well-administered effort, in my opinion. So I'm worried about Trump sending us into another recession. We should be more worried about what our response to that recession is, because that's coming. We need to know how far America is going to drag us down.
Yeah. Don, a great contribution there, man. Don calling us from the Cape Winelands. Peter, MJ, I'll start with
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
6 minutes before 10 o'clock. Peter, you're in Hammanskraal. Go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
Yes, Clement. The issue of tariffs has always been there, but then the way Trump has implemented it, unfortunately, smaller countries are going to suffer, even Americans. Hence, we have what we call bilateral, bilateral talks, and so unfortunately, what Trump, what he is literally doing is that he reduces the American influence. So if all countries or BRICS countries or most countries can retaliate, unfortunately, it's America who is going to suffer the most. Yeah, that's my point.
Thank you, Peter, for that point. MJ, what are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement.
Sure.
Look, I think you said something earlier, which I supported since last week. What people miss is that I heard some saying they support what Trump is doing and so forth. Look, it's fine. Somewhere there is truth in that, but the manner of approach. Clement, what Trump and his administration misses is that not everything can be manufactured in America. If let's say I'm a farmer in South Africa, I export citrus fruits to America. And Trump says, but you can always come and produce those citrus fruits in America. Number one, I'm not even experienced in the climate there. I have to first understand the climatic conditions. I'm not even guaranteed about the quality of the product. And number two, I own a normal manufacturing company in South Africa. I supply in America. Now, if I take my company, my factory, and go and start a factory in America, number one, I get my raw materials cheaper here in South Africa. I go there. It means I will have to import raw materials from South Africa to America, to my factory there, which will still be then subjected to tariffs. So I'm still going to be worse off. It's not going to be a different. The issue of trade deficit, Clement, it's a simple thing that trading partners sit together and address. You don't just decide to bully people around and say, but you are actually, we are spending more than what you spend. A practical example, Elon Musk, not so long ago, he was campaigning against an American company, Microsoft, because he felt that he is more entitled to make money in America than this guy, what is his name, the owner of Microsoft. So if they could do that to some of the American companies, what guarantee do I as a potential investor have? If I go to America, then I will not be subjected to those anomalies. So there's no guarantee, because not everything can be manufactured in your country, whether you like it or not, Clement. We need to diversify at some point. We can have a clothing factories here in South Africa, but Clement, if you can afford that designer suit from Italy, it shouldn't be an issue. Imagine us wearing the same suit at an event because we wanted to say we want everything manufactured in South Africa. The issue of China bringing a lot of materials, we cannot blame China alone. We need to blame the government that did not actually make it a point that there is a balance when it comes to trading with China. They allow China to dominate our market. So you can't blame China alone. There is that trading partner negotiations that take part from time to time to address the issues of imbalances when it comes to trading.
Yeah. MJ in Pretoria, thank you for your thoughts. 2 minutes before 10. I just want to take some time to play your WhatsApp voice notes because we took lots of calls in the previous hour and not a lot of WhatsApp voice notes. So let's just wrap that all up now before we get into our next conversation.
Hello, good morning, Clement. The people that are saying Trump is doing the right thing, I think they are very, very mistaken. First of all, no man is an island. No country is an island. America will want to export those, whatever they are manufacturing, to other countries. If America is treating the world the way it's treating other nations, Who's going to buy from America? And the other thing, China is going to come out victorious because people want cheap stuff. They're going to buy from China. They're going to stop buying from America. So, Trump is just destroying his own country, and then otherwise they will have to manufacture whatever they manufacture and then keep it in America and then consume it in America. Nobody will want to do business with them in future. Thank you.
Morning, Clement. If the shoe was on the other foot, do you think China will accept influx of goods, cheap goods flooding their market from the United States? Would China accept everything that is happening to the United States in terms of them sending all their cheap stuff there, their goods and services to the United States, and running up deficits for the United States? What happens if it was the other way around? I think China would do the same thing Trump is doing. Let's discuss.
Good morning, Clement. Peto here in City Deep. I trust you are well. Hey, you know what, Clement? I don't know why Trump is doing this. As a president, you need to make sure that goods or cost of living is low for your citizens. But the way he's going about it, it's going to make things more expensive for Americans and the rest of the world. I don't know who's advising him. I thought as a businessman and as he's surrounded by a business mogul like Elon Musk, they were going to advise him wisely. And again, what he's doing is he's limiting preferences for his own citizens because he's forcing them to buy domestic products. So, you know what? Let's buckle up.
Hi, Clement. Here. Look, Trump is trying to solve a problem that he doesn't have. He has virtually zero unemployment and he's trying to bring back jobs. For who? Because he really doesn't have the people to do the work. So his agenda is to have adversaries and enemies, and he wants to be at war with somebody over something or the other. But to get jobs back doesn't make sense because he has a country with virtual zero unemployment. They're sitting on about 2 or 3% unemployment rate. Who's going to do all those jobs if he imports them back?